From unleashing a fleet of flying cars to executing drug dealers, Donald Trump has not been coy about his unorthodox vision for America as he seeks to retake the White House. The former president and front-running Republican candidate for 2024 has explained in speeches and a series of Agenda 47 policy videos how he would govern.
Prior to COVID, and we had so many people that did such a great job in this country, but we had this country going. We had the greatest economy in history. We had no inflation. We were all of the things that we talked about with energy. We were at a level that we've never been at, and we were ready to rock and roll. And then we had a terrible result in an election that should have never happened. We ended the NAFTA disaster, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with USMCA. Nobody thought that was possible. The congressmen here, most of them didn't think it was possible because we had to go through Congress, we had to end it. It had tremendous constituencies. The best trade deal ever made was the USMCA, and it was a giant win for Florida farmers and growers and producers. You know that, tremendous win. I appointed nearly 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices, which has been amazing.
Often thin on detail, the eye-catching pronouncements form the backbone of a platform that Trump says will make America great and glorious again. Critics say it spells out why he should never be allowed to return to the Oval Office as the country's 47th president. Agenda 47, the blueprint for 2024. Agenda 47 is what Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign calls their formal policy plans.
And here are just some of what we will do when we become the 47th president of the United States. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Look, that's a war that would have never taken place. Putin would have never done it, It'll be done very quickly. The United States must also build a state-of-the-art missile defense shield. Look, we got to have a missile defense shield. We got all these maniacs in all these countries, not only countries, big countries where you can talk and, they have a lot to lose also, but you have people getting nuclear missiles. I wanted to stop that. We had it stopped with Iran. We have to have a shield. I want to build a shield around our country, and these shields work. Frankly, if Israel didn't have a shield, you wouldn't have Israel today. They stop thousands of rockets a week. But we have to build a much more sophisticated shield, and it's going to be made right here in the USA, so it's not all bad. And a lot of it's going to be made in New Hampshire. A lot of it's made in New Hampshire. We're going to have a nice big shield. And for years, American taxpayers have bankrolled space-age missile defense system to protect foreign nations. We do these incredible things, and we give it to foreign nations.
According to the Trump campaign, it is the only official comprehensive and detailed look at what President Trump will do if he returns to the White House. It is presented on the campaign's website in a series of videos with Trump outlining each proposal.
I want to say right now we have very little ammunition. He actually said we have very little. Even if it's true, number one, we shouldn't have been in that position. But we have given so much ammunition to other countries, in particular Ukraine. We don't have any ammunition. These people, well, it's like the guy I told you about. Well, you'll be making a lot of our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, we were blowing it into warehouses. We were taking warehouses all over the country, storing our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, and now we have very little, just like in the strategic reserves, we have very little gas. Under my leadership, we will once again protect our own people with our own missile defense system capable of blasting China, Russia, Iranian missiles out of the sky. And we will, in addition, have offensive weapons that will be second to none. We'll have the greatest weaponry. We have the best people. Russia stole we call them the super dupers, right? They go super fast. They stole that during the Obama administration. They stole the plans. It was all very highly classified. They stole the plans and they built it.
According to Philip Bump, some Agenda 47 videos appeared scattershot and responsive to current events around early 2023.
4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America.
The proposals appeared to be aimed towards Republican primary voters and slowed down once his primary lead grew in April 2023 to the point where Philip Bump wrote in the Washington Post in June 2024 that neither Trump nor his campaign regularly brings up the plan.
And along with our borders, probably the most important thing of all, we will secure our elections. Because if you don't have borders and if you don't have fair elections, this country will not survive. No country can. Our goal will be one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. But until then, Republicans, you have to get out in November. We have to do it twice a year. In January, we're going to do that. We're going to win the primary big. But we have to get out in November. We can't let them cheat. The only way they beat us is going to be if they cheat. They can't beat us otherwise. They don't have the votes. We don't want to see those votes get manipulated. We don't want to get... The biggest problem, you know, they're all saying about don't vote on Tuesday, vote early. No. The biggest problem is they make fake ballots, okay? That's the biggest problem. And a lot of Republicans are very naive when they don't say that. They say, oh, vote early, we want to build... No. The big problem we have to do, we got to stop fake ballots from being made. And if we don't do that, this country's in damn big trouble. This is what we must do in conclusion to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is cratering. You know it very well up here.
Project 2025 has reportedly caused some annoyance in the Trump campaign, which had historically preferred fewer and more vague policy proposals to limit opportunities for criticism and maintain flexibility. Some commentators have argued that Project 2025 is the most detailed look at what a Trump administration would look like.
Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be the greatest defeat of our nation in over 200 years if we lose our currency. And that's happening the way it's going right now with all this money that's being printed and horribly just handed to everybody for Green New Deal. Green New Deal is going to put you out of business. Just ask Germany, ask other countries that have gone a little bit that way. They're all building coal plants now because they were dying. They were going to die. It won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia would never have invaded Ukraine and China would not be even having a thought about raiding Taiwan. They were never talking about it. Russia was never talking about it. You know, people say, well, how do we know? Because for 4 years it wasn't happening, and it never would have happened with Putin, or it wouldn't have happened. President Xi would have never done it. Kim Jong-un of North Korea has tremendous nuclear capability. Everybody felt safe when I was president. I got along with him. You would have had a nuclear crooked Hillary was there.
Agenda 47 and Project 2025 share many themes and policies.
There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours, and this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined. Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never. And everything I have to give with all of the energy and fight in my heart and soul, I pledge to our nation tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge that to our nation. We're going to turn our nation around, and we're going to do it very quickly. Thank you.
Including expanding presidential power, cuts to the Department of Education, mass deportations, death penalty for drug dealers.
Americans deserve an Iron Dome, and that's what we're going to have. We're going to have an Iron Dome around our country. And we'll save a fortune, because a lot of countries that we protect, number one, they can't stand us. Number two, they don't deserve protection. The money we waste is incredible. I will end Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will quickly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Very quickly. It's going to go fast. Get ready. And unlike the sanctimonious who voted to gut Medicare and Social Security and voted 3 times to raise the retirement age to 70, I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. We're not going to be raising ages like you. We have so many other things we can do, like, as an example, utilize what's under our feet, liquid gold. We're going to make so much money with our liquid gold. We were all set, and we were starting to do it. We were energy independent. Within 6 months, we were going to be energy dominant all over the world. And this guy stopped it. On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate. Everybody has to have an electric car. Under a Trump administration, gasoline-powered engines will be allowed, but child sexual mutilation will be banned. Can you imagine having to say that? Now, can you imagine having to say it? Can you imagine 15 years ago if you had a politician? Can you believe I'm a politician? I got to say I'm a politician, I guess. But can you imagine you had somebody up here running for office and you said, we're going to ban child sexual mutilation. People would say, is this guy crazy? Of course so. Or we're going to give parental rights back in our schools. Who would think they've taken it away? They're arresting parents. They're arresting parents. I will also sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And I will keep men out of women's sports. Is that okay?
And using the National Guard in liberal-led cities. The Jetsons revisited? One of Trump's more striking proposals is a competition to design up to 10 state-of-the-art freedom cities, roughly the size of Washington, on federal land.
And by the way, Wisconsin, we are spending over $250 million here, creating jobs and other economic development all over the place. So I hope you will remember this in November and give us your vote. I am trying to buy your vote. I'll be honest about that. And I promise we will make Wisconsin great again. We're going to make it. Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation, to every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic. I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term. We got hit with COVID. We did a great job. Nobody knew what it was, but nobody's ever seen an economy pre-COVID. And then we handed over a stock market that was substantially higher than just prior to COVID. Coming in, did a great job. Never got credit for that. We got credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things, the great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. We did so much. Right to try. Right to try is a big deal. We got right to try. They were trying to get that for 52 years. Somebody's terminally ill, and hopefully there's nobody in this audience, but it does happen a lot. They're terminally ill and they can't use our new space age drugs and other things that we are way ahead. We have the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest laboratories in the world, and you can't do it. They've been trying to get that approved for 52 years. Wasn't that easy? The insurance companies didn't want to do it. They didn't want the risk. The labs didn't want to do it because if it didn't work, people are pretty far down the line toward death.
Built around cutting-edge hives of industry brimming with factories, these innovation hubs would represent a quantum leap in the American standard of living.
Under our leadership, the United States will be respected again. No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might. Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets, patriotism to our schools, and importantly, we will restore peace, stability, and harmony all throughout the world. But to achieve this future, we must first rescue our nation from failed and even incompetent leadership. We have totally incompetent leadership. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. Under the current administration, we are indeed a nation in decline. We have an inflation crisis that is making life unaffordable, ravaging the incomes of working and low-income families, and crushing, just simply crushing our people like never before. They've never seen anything like it. We also have an illegal immigration crisis, and it's taking place right now as we sit here in this beautiful arena. It's a massive invasion at our southern border that has spread misery, crime, poverty, disease, and destruction to communities all across our land. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Then there's an international crisis, the likes of which the world has seldom been part of. Nobody can believe what's happening. War is now raging in Europe and the Middle East. A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, the Philippines, and all of Asia. And our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III. And this will be a war like no other war because of weaponry. The weapons are no longer army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. These weapons are obliteration. It's time for a change. This administration can't come close to solving the problems. We're dealing with very tough, very fierce people. They're fierce people.
Trump envisages commuters darting about in flying cars in an echo of the Jetsons, the space-age 1960s cartoon about a family living in an automated push-button future. Year-long birthday bash. Trump has proposed a salute to America, honoring the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, with an entire year of festivities across the nation.
I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. We will drill, baby, drill. But by doing that, we will lead a large-scale decline in prices. Prices will start to come down. Energy raised it. They took our energy policies and destroyed them. Then they immediately went back to them, but by that time, so much was lost. But we will do it at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And we'll end lots of different things. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. Everybody was coming to the country. They were bringing back billions and billions of dollars into our country. The companies made it impossible to bring it back. The tax rate was too high, and the legal complications were far too great. I changed both of them, and hundreds of billions of dollars by Apple and so many other companies were brought back into our nation, and we had an economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them.
From Memorial Day 2025 through July 4, 2026, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states, he said. It'll be something.
We will stop Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world with tax cuts, regulation cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rates cuts like you've never seen before. You know, we had a 2% interest rate, and now it's 8, 9, and 10%, and you can't get the money anyway, so what difference is there? Nobody's buying houses anymore. And unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, I will always protect Social Security and Medicare for our great seniors, because Ron wanted to obliterate Social Security, and he wanted to raise the minimum age to 70 or even 75. When I get back into the Oval Office, we will totally obliterate the rest of the deep state. We're going to obliterate it. And we will together restore law and order in our country. We will completely overhaul the DOJ to investigate every Marxist prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. And on day one, I will also sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or any mask mandate. We're not kidding. There will be no mask mandates. And incredibly, that I even have to say this because it's so ridiculous that it could even be a subject, I will keep men out of women's sports.
An American utopia, Trump wants to launch a great beautification campaign to improve U.S. cities, making the streets more pleasant for ordinary Americans.
And just as I did for 4 years very successfully, nobody's done it like I did, I will fully uphold our great Second Amendment. I will fully uphold. And I will continue to protect innocent life. We will restore quickly free speech, and I will totally secure our elections so catastrophic results like we had cannot be had again. That can't have. To have a great country, you need borders, and you need free and clear and beautiful elections, and we don't have either. This is what we must do in conclusion to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is cratering like we haven't seen before. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea formed together as a menacing and very destructive force. Our currency is crashing and will soon be the world's standard gone. It'll be gone. It'll be absolutely no longer the world standard, which will be the greatest single defeat of our country in over 200 years. If that happens, we will indeed be a third world country. None of these things, thank you, will ever happen with me, not even a little chance. Just like Russia would have never invaded Ukraine, China would not even have thought about raiding Taiwan, and the attack on Israel would never have happened, would have never happened. And we would have left Afghanistan with dignity and strength and pride instead of the greatest embarrassment in our history.
He says he wants to replace grotesque buildings with magnificent classical architecture. Streets would be renamed in honor of great American patriots.
With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government, and we will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job that we so brilliantly started. It was doing so beautifully. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, we're doing it together. The forgotten man and woman will not be forgotten any longer. They will not be forgotten any longer. They've been forgotten. They weren't forgotten for 4 years. They will not be forgotten any longer. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first, and we will make America great again.
While the homeless, on threat of arrest, would be sent to tent cities on large parcels of inexpensive land. A new war on drugs. The former president has vowed to designate Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and to impose the death penalty on drug dealers and people traffickers.
Don't take drugs, okay? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Come here. Raise your hand. Raise it. Come here. You know, this is what people ask, what do I tell? I said to my kids, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Raise your hands, kids. I promise Donald J. Trump that I will never take drugs. I don't want to say no alcohol, but take it easy on the alcohol, right? And you know what else? No cigarettes, right? All right, kids, come here. Come here. Come here. Okay. No, they're beautiful kids.
Despite pardoning multiple dealers during his time in the White House, Trump has proposed harsh measures against drug-related crimes.
We're going to build a wall, and we have to build a wall. For people, for gangs, for drugs. The drugs has never been a problem like we have right now. And by the way, like the world has with drugs. And you know what? We fill up these councils. They all want to be on councils. They call them blue ribbon councils, where we take... You think her life is so easy, folks? Not so easy. She is a great first lady. But we put Melania and other people on this blue ribbon committee. Do you think the drug dealers that kill thousands of people during their lifetime, do you think they care who's on a blue ribbon committee? The only way to solve the drug problem is through toughness. When you catch a drug dealer, you gotta put him away for a long time. When I was in China, and other places, by the way, I said, Mr. President, do you have a drug problem? No, we do not. I said, big country, 1.4 billion people, right? Not much of a drug problem. I said, what do you attribute that to? Well, the death penalty. So, hey, if you're a drug dealer and you know you're gonna get caught and you know that you're gonna kill people, you're killing our kids. They're killing our kids. They're killing our kids. They're killing our families. They're killing our workers. You know, we have a hard time. Of the 100 million people, that special group of people, they're great people. They want to work. We have a hard time. A lot of them can't qualify to work in these factories. Chrysler's coming back in. You saw that from Mexico to Michigan. We have companies coming back into the United States. You haven't seen that. I used to tell you that was going to happen, but now it's happening. But a problem, a lot of people can't qualify because of drugs. But I said to the president, I said, so you don't have much of a problem? No. And they had a problem. You know, if you go back 200 years ago, and they know all about drugs. It was devastating.
Trump has promised to issue pardons to a large portion of the rioters jailed after the deadly 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol. More than 600 of his supporters have been convicted over the worst attack on the seat of U.S. democracy in 2 centuries. The charges have ranged from trespassing to obstructing the government and seditious conspiracy. Mandatory stop and frisk Trump says he would require police to enforce stop and frisk, the practice of detaining and searching civilians for weapons and drugs. Declared unconstitutional by a federal court in 2013, the tactic is widely criticized for discriminating against racial minorities. Trump says he would also deploy the National Guard to restore law and order in liberal cities and would investigate radical Marxist prosecutors refusing to punish disorder. Education reform. Trump has proposed sweeping changes to the education system, including cutting federal funding for any school or program teaching critical race theory and gender ideology.
The next step forward in building an inclusive society is making sure that every young American gets a great education and the opportunity to achieve the American dream. Yet for too long, countless American children have been trapped in failing government schools. To rescue these students, 18 states have created school choice in the form of opportunity scholarships. The programs are so popular that tens of thousands of students remain on a waiting list. One of those students is Janiyah Davis, a fourth grader from Philadelphia. Janiyah. Janiyah's mom, Stephanie, is a single parent. She would do anything to give her daughter a better future. But last year, that future was put further out of reach when Pennsylvania's governor vetoed legislation to expand school choice to 50,000 children. Janiyah and Stephanie are in the gallery. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here with your beautiful daughter. Thank you very much. But Janiyah, I have some good news for you, because I am pleased to inform you that your long wait is over. I can proudly announce tonight that an opportunity scholarship has become available. It's going to you, and you will soon be heading to the school of your choice. Now I call on Congress to give 1 million American children the same opportunity Janiyah has just received. Pass the Education Freedom Scholarships and Opportunities Act, because no parent should be forced to send their child to a failing government school.
Directing the Departments of Justice and Education to open civil rights investigations into any school district that has engaged in race-based discrimination. Removing what he calls radicals from the Federal Department of Education and advocating for the direct election of school principals by parents.
I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare, because all of these people, by the millions they're coming in, they're going to be on Social Security and Medicare and other things, and you're not able to afford it. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly. But no hope or dream we have for America can succeed unless we stop the illegal immigrant invasion, the worst that's ever been seen anywhere in the world. There's never been an invasion like this anywhere. Third world countries would fight with sticks and stones not to let this happen. The invasion at our southern border, we will stop it, and we will stop it quickly. You heard Tom Homan yesterday. Tom Homan, put him in charge and just sit back and watch. Brandon Judd of Border Patrol, he's incredible. These guys, they really, their job is a lot easier if they don't have to do anything, but they want to. They're patriots. Brandon Judd, Border Patrol, ICE. ICE goes out. You have to see what ICE does with MS-13, you have these are probably the worst gang, and ICE goes in there. And I know a lot of people in these rows here, and they're very tough people, but they don't want to do this job. They'll go into a pack of MS-13 killers. They're the worst, probably the worst gangs in the world. We have thousands of them. I moved thousands and thousands out in my 4 years. We moved them out, and it was a pleasure. But ICE would go right into a pack of these killers, and you see fists flying, you see everything flying, and then they take them. They put them in a paddy wagon.
Creating a new way to certify teachers based on their patriotism and giving preferential funding to states and school districts that abolish teacher tenure for grades K through 12 and adopt merit pay. Proposing to use the college accreditation system to reclaim educational institutions from what he terms the radical left, including firing current accreditors and replacing them with new ones that uphold his standards. Supporting homeschooling by allowing parents to use tax-free education savings accounts and ensuring equal access for homeschooling families to school activities. Culture Wars Trump has weighed in on most of the so-called culture war issues that polarize Americans, from abortion, transgender rights, and gun control to the teaching of America's racist history. He says he would crack down on doctors providing gender-affirming care to minors and those promoting critical race theory or inappropriate political material in schools. Trump would also create a new tax credit to reimburse teachers for concealed carry firearms and training. Expansion of presidential powers. Trump has proposed significant expansions of presidential powers, including dismantling the deep state and reclaiming democracy from Washington corruption. His plans include firing government employees, reforming FISA courts, declassifying and publishing all documents on deep state activities, taking action against government leakers, making every inspector general's office independent, establishing an independent auditing system for intelligence agencies, moving government positions out of Washington, banning federal employees from taking jobs at regulated companies, and pushing for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. Regulatory reform. Trump aims to cut federal regulations by restoring Executive Order 1-771 and implementing a regulatory budget. He plans to require all government regulations to be publicly posted, or they will be null and void, and to bring independent regulatory agencies back under presidential authority.
First, we must get economic relief to our citizens. Starting on day one, we will drive down prices and make America affordable again. We have to make it affordable. It's not affordable. People can't live like this. Under this administration, our current administration, groceries are up 57%, gasoline is up 60 and 70%, mortgage rates have quadrupled. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what they are because you can't get the money anyway. Can't buy houses. Young people can't get any financing to buy a house. The total household costs have increased an average of $28,000 per family under this administration. Republicans have a plan to bring down prices and bring them down very, very rapidly. By slashing energy costs, we will in turn reduce the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and all household goods. So much starts with energy. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country by far. We are a nation that has the opportunity to make an absolute fortune with its energy. We have it, and China doesn't. Under the Trump administration, just 3.5 years ago, we were energy independent. But soon, we will actually be better than that. We will be energy dominant and supply not only ourselves, but we will supply the rest of the world with numbers that nobody has ever seen, and we will reduce our debt, $36 trillion. We will start reducing that, and we will also reduce your taxes still further. Next, and by the way, they want to raise your taxes 4 times, think of it, And all my life, I grew up watching politicians. I always loved politics. I guess I was on the other side. I'd watch and they were always talking about, we will give you a tax cut. We will give you a tax cut. My whole life, I was watching, I will give you a tax cut, right, Mr. Congressman? That's all they talked about. This is the only administration that said, we're going to raise your taxes by 4 times what you're paying now, and people are supposed to vote for them? I've never heard it. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more, and it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt. And next, we will end the ridiculous and actually incredible waste of taxpayer dollars that is fueling the inflation crisis. They've spent trillions of dollars on things having to do with the Green New Scam. It's a scam. And that's caused tremendous inflationary pressures in addition to the cost of energy.
He also proposes creating an ultra-streamlined federal regulatory framework for Freedom Cities and requiring federal employees to pass a new civil service test on constitutional limits. Impoundment and fiscal policy Trump proposes stopping unnecessary government spending by restoring impoundment powers, challenging the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, and ordering federal agencies to identify budget savings through efficiencies. He aims to use these savings for tax reductions, strengthen programs like defense, Medicare, and Social Security, and restore negotiating leverage with Congress to control spending. Critics argue these proposals could provoke a constitutional showdown and consolidate excessive power in the executive branch, potentially violating congressional authority. Immigration. After years of unfulfilled promises, Trump still aims to fully secure the border and end mass unskilled immigration.
Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force and their jobs are taken. By the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions. The unions are suffering because of it. Because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly.
During his previous term, the administration built around 440 miles of fencing, but fewer than 50 miles of new wall where there was none before. Trump has also announced plans to end the policy of granting citizenship to U.S.-born children with undocumented parents. Trump has proposed negotiating an end to the Russian invasion of Ukraine within 24 hours and preventing World War III by purging what he calls warmongers and America Last globalists from the deep state, Pentagon, State Department, and national security industrial complex. He seeks to overhaul defense and intelligence services, reevaluate NATO's purpose, rebuild military strength with record funding, and address the military recruitment crisis. These proposals underscore his commitment to reshaping America's role in global affairs. Proposes maintaining Medicare and Social Security by cutting federal expenses, ending mass releases of illegal aliens, left-wing gender programs in the military, and climate initiatives. He aims to reinstate a ban on ESG investments in retirement accounts, establish a presidential commission to investigate rising chronic illnesses, and reduce drug costs through negotiations with pharmaceutical companies. Critics question the feasibility and impact of these proposals on healthcare affordability and access. Conclusion: Trump's proposals, ranging from flying cars to strict law enforcement, reflect his vision of making America great and glorious again. While supporters see these plans as innovative and necessary, critics argue they are impractical and divisive.